Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network special report series of the Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, welcome back to part 8 of Septemics, a philosophical science, hierarchies of human phenomenon, analysis, prediction, and management of human affairs, with Jim Marshall, founder and creator of Septemics and author of the book Septemics. So before we jump in, if you don't have the book yet, please go grab your book at septemics.com. And if you already have it, pick it up, open to chapter 9, which we will start off today in a continuation of this course, a recap. But before we start, Jim, welcome back to the show, brother.
Hi, Paul.
You're welcome. So before we start, would you like to give a quick recap and introduction to yourself?
Sure. For those of you who don't know who I am the discoverer of hitherto unknown natural phenomena, which greatly aid in the understanding of people, from which I constructed a revolutionary practical philosophic system called Septemics, and published it in the book Septemics, Hierarchies of Human Phenomena. Today we're going to discuss some of the contents of that book.
Awesome. Let's jump on in. We are going to start off or pick back up on chapter 19, the scale of justification.
Okay. So I'm sure it's not news to any of your viewers that people tend to justify things. In fact, pretty much everybody justifies everything one way or another. And this is the scale of justification. Now, they might not think of it as justification, but when I explain it, you'll see how they do. This is a spiral scale. If you look at level 1 and level 7, they both say no justification. However, at level 1, it's no justification needed. And at level 7, it's no attempt at justification. So you don't want to make the mistake of mislabeling somebody between 1 and 7, because that's the biggest error you can make. A person who is in despair makes no attempt at justification. He doesn't justify anything because he's in despair. Whereas a person at the top of the scale doesn't justify because he lives with the truth, and the truth does not need to be justified.
Yeah.
This is a quantum scale, meaning you skip instantaneously from level to level. There's no intervening gradation. So at one moment you're at, for example, level 3, and a billionth of a second later you're at level 2. And it's a specific scale, meaning it's context driven. It only makes sense in a context. So how do you justify regarding your family? How do you justify regarding your job? How do you justify regarding your bowling club or whatever? How do you justify regarding your religion? So a person will have several different levels for the corresponding contexts. I'm looking at the axis, the vertical dotted line on the right. What are we measuring here? We're measuring causativeness. Above level 1 is total cause. Of course, that's an unattainable absolute. No human being can get to total cause, but you could get very close. And below level 7 is total effect. And again, that's an unattainable absolute. So as a person goes up the scale, he becomes more causative, which of course everyone wants to be. And as you go down the scale, you become more at effect. So cause and effect. So this is measuring cause and effect. That's what this scale measures. And if you look at level 4, you'll see there's the horizontal line that separates responsibility from irresponsibility. So a person who's at level 1, 2, or 3 is being responsible in the context specified. A person who's at level 5, 6, or 7 is being irresponsible in the context specified, more so as you descend. And level 4, it's kind of neutral. It's not particularly responsible or irresponsible. So we've seen this type of split at level 4 in many of the scales. In this case, it doesn't separate sane from insane, as is the case in many of the scales. It separates responsible from irresponsible. So you see, the more responsibility you assume, the more at cause you are. And the more responsibility you shirk, the more at effect you are. So this is a formula for causativeness. If you want to be more causative in an area, assume more responsibility. So for example, let's say you have a baseball player, right? He's not hitting well. He's striking out a lot. Well, he can assume more responsibility for that by practicing his hitting in a half a dozen different ways that baseball players do, hitting off a tee, hitting soft toss, taking extra batting practice, hitting in the batting cage. In all these ways, he's assuming more responsibility, and this will result in him being more causative. So after he does all this, he's able to hit better. So this is a formula for success in any area. So you can spot how you are justifying, which tells you how responsible you are, and then you can improve that by moving up one level at a time. Okay, so let's start at the bottom. No attempt at justification. Okay, so a person in despair makes no attempt at justification because he's in despair. So why did you do that? I don't know. I didn't think about it. He's in despair. Now, up from that, a little less irresponsible is a person who justifies things by computation, which is a fixed idea. A person will sort of compute something, figure something out, is another way of saying it, and that becomes a fixed idea. So this you would hear this from people when they would recite these computations, and they would say something like, you can't trust anyone. See, that's a fixed idea.
Yeah.
That's demonstrably not true. Some people are more trustworthy than other people. But a person will use that, person who's irresponsible will use that to shirk irresponsibility. You see, instead of saying, well, I'm not taking enough responsibility in the area, he's not up to that. So he has some fixed idea which justifies by this computation that he has.
Yeah.
So it could be all women are the same, or all men are the same, right? He sort of has computed this, and he has this fixed idea now, and that's how he justifies this. Okay, well, why don't you get in a regular relationship, a steady relationship with women? Well, you can't trust women. You see, that's a fixed idea. That's how he justifies it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about that. You can move him to the next level up, but you can't argue him out of that. You cannot talk him out of that. It's a fixed idea. It's a datum in his mind that is fixed. Up from that is justifying by logic. This is what we call reason. So have you ever heard the term Jesuitical?
Yeah.
It's a derogatory term. Jesuits were known for their logic, where they would argue things with logic. And it became a derogatory term after a while that there were people who were doing this. So they reasoned it out. In other words, this guy won't give you a fixed idea, but he'll sort of reason out why he does what he does. In other words, he's justifying it to you and to himself by some sort of an argument that he makes, some sort of a use of reason. If you pay attention to people, you'll see them do this. They'll have some, fairly like, well, why don't you ever vote? And the guy will give you this long, complicated example, as to why he doesn't vote. It's like he doesn't give you this fixed idea, which is like one phrase or a sentence. It's more like a paragraph. He'll give you maybe 500, 600 words explaining to you by some sort of a logical process why he doesn't vote. The fact is, he's shirking the responsibility to vote. You see? Now, that's not as bad as doing it by fixed idea, because he's at least is thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, then up from that is justifying my physical reality. Now, this will not be obvious to many people. Physical reality and objective reality are essentially the same thing. You say to somebody, well, why are you taking that pill? Well, it's an aspirin and I have a headache. See, that's an objective reality. I have a headache is an objective reality. He's telling you what's going on. Okay? Or you say to somebody, well, why were you late today? He says, well, I got a flat tire. You see? That's objective reality.
Yeah.
So he's not really assuming responsibility, and he's not shirking responsibility. He's just telling you what happened. Okay, so there's an infinitude of possible responses here, but this is what we get from reasonable people. The person has something objective. The wife comes home, the husband bought a half a dozen apples. Why did you only buy half a dozen apples? I told you to buy a dozen. I had no more money. I used up all my money. See, that's an objective reality. He's not reasoning this. This is not a fixed idea. See, he's not in despair. Okay? Up from that is by acceptance. This is better than physical reality. This is a guy who just views what's there and accepts it. Like a guy whose girlfriend is not too smart. He can see she's not too bright. She's pretty. She's nice. They like one another. But he can see that she is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay? He doesn't say anything about it. He just accepts it. So that's how he justifies it to himself. So if somebody says to him, Betty Lou is not too smart. Why do you go out with her? He says, well, I accept her the way she is. The Billy Joel song, I want you just the way you are.
Yeah.
So the person views it. He sees what's there and he accepts it. It's that simple. See, that's assuming responsibility. Up from that is justifying by responsibility. In other words, this is forgiveness. So, the girl cheats on the guy, and his buddy says, well, why do you put up with this? Well, why don't you get rid of her? Well, I forgive her. See, he's assuming responsibility for her.
Yeah.
See, that's responsibility. You see this all the time in parents. The kid, drops the glass of milk, makes a big mess in the kitchen, breaks the glass. The mother doesn't get mad. She just moves the kid aside, gets rid of the glass, cleans up the mess. Okay? So she forgives him.
Yeah.
Because she's responsible for him. And up from that at the top is no justification needed. That's just the truth. When you see the truth, no justification is needed. It's just the truth. Like a guy will have some epiphany about something. Like he realizes that a person is at a certain level on one of these scales. See? And he says, oh, that explains why Joe does X, Y, and Z. See?
Yeah.
There's no justification here. It's just the truth. He doesn't have to justify it to himself or anybody else. He just sees what's there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that this book is so useful and beneficial, because every time you correctly find someone, whether it's yourself or another, on any scale, you have a realization. And when you have that realization, you are accepting a truth. You're saying, oh, I see, that's the truth. This guy is at this level, see? And so he doesn't have to justify anything. He just goes on with the truth. He sees what's there and he moves on
Yeah.
with whatever it is.
Hmm.
So that's how this scale works. Everybody is doing one of these 7 things all the time. If you're conscious. If you're asleep, probably not. But people probably even do this in their dreams.
Yeah.
But again, every person is at some level on every scale. So it's advantageous for you to take advantage of it by figuring out, where am I on these scales? Because once you know the actual level, you can improve your life by moving yourself up one level. Because you see, let's say you find out that you're at level 4 on this. Well, you can improve your responsibility, thus moving yourself up to level 3, and then you will be more causative in this area, which means you'll be able to make it be the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
That's what causativeness is. So that's how this works. Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Next.
Next, chapter 20, the scale of belief.
Okay. So as I point out in the book, it was not obvious to me that belief is better than disbelief, or that there's a top and a bottom to this. And the reason for that is everybody enters this scale at level 4. So if you come into an area, you always start at neutrality. So let's say you have a guy doesn't know anything at all about Mormonism, right? Doesn't know anything, never heard of it, doesn't. So he starts out neutralities. Well, what's this? See, he's impartial.
Yeah.
What is this thing? And so you can give him a book to read, you can talk to him about it. Now, as you do that, you'll see him. He's either going to go up a level or down a level. So let's say he finds out about it and he says, oh, I see, this is pretty cool. Yeah, this makes some sense to me. See, he goes up to ingenuousness, which is he has faith. He has some faith in it. He doesn't have a ton of faith in it, but he has some faith in it. You see?
Yeah.
Whereas he might say, oh, this is a lot of bunk. I don't want to hear anymore. He's gone down to 5. He's skeptical. He has a little faith in this. Oh, I don't have any faith in this thing. So this is a volatile scale. People move on this quickly and often. So the whole point of a politician giving a speech is to move you up the scale. Guy comes in to this political meeting, and he's skeptical about this guy, right? For whatever reason. So as the guy starts to speak and he's telling him what he's done, what he believes, what he wants to do, what his track record is, and so forth, he becomes neutral. Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm not skeptical anymore. He's impartial. And
Yeah.
then later on, he might find out more and move up to 3, ingenuousness. Oh, yeah. See, like, when you talk to an ingenuous person, they have some faith in whatever it is. Okay? Now, let me go back to the type. This is a linear scale, which means it's very simple. There's no apparent overlap between levels 1 and 7. It's a gradual scale, meaning you move by an infinitude of gradations up or down the scale. And it's a specific scale, which means it has a context. What is your belief regarding this religion? What is your belief regarding this religion? What is your belief regarding this religion? See, a guy might be cynical about Christianity, but neutral about Hinduism.
Yeah.
Different context. Now, what are we measuring here? The dotted line on the right. At the top, above level 1, you have complete trust and control, and below level 7, you have no trust or control, right? So these are unattainable absolutes. So you can get very close to complete trust and control. And if you are very close to complete trust and control, you're at level 1, which is complete faith. If you are at no trust or control, you're at level 7, disbelief. You just disbelieve it completely. You have no faith in it at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at this. So let's say you have a guy who is a rabid atheist. Okay? He has no belief, no faith whatsoever that there's any afterlife, that there's such a thing as spirits, that there's any God, there's any heaven. He just doesn't believe in any of it. He's in disbelief. You cannot do much with this person. Now, the example I gave you is a fairly obvious one, but you can have people who sort of get into a rut of being at or near the bottom of this scale across many contexts.
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of person, let's say you have somebody who, I'll give you a historical example. Millions of Americans refused to vote for Mitt Romney because he was a Mormon. That is a fact. Okay? They just say,
Yeah.
this guy's a Mormon, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay? So there were 4 million votes that didn't show up. Most of those people didn't vote for his opponent. They just didn't vote.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So it's not that they liked Obama. It's just that they were not going to vote for a Mormon, period. Okay? So they just had a complete disbelief. Now, this is the type of person, you can tell them something that's factual, that's supported in literature, and they will not accept it because they have no faith.
Yeah.
There are people who are like that. You can say to the person, I remember once I told somebody an actual fact, which is that this is actually goes back like 30 years. There are more Americans that believe in UFOs than believe that they will collect Social Security.
Wow. That's
Okay?
interesting.
They've done studies on this.
Yeah.
And I told somebody about this once. I cited this, from a reputable magazine that had reported this study. It said, no, that's not true. Man, it can't be true. I said, well, they wouldn't have printed this if it were false. I mean, they got the data from this report and they printed it in the magazine. And no. Or like, if you have somebody who thinks the world is 6,000 years old and you try to tell them about carbon dating, Carbon dating is a fairly simple thing.
Yeah.
Anybody can learn carbon dating.
Mm-hmm.
It is a proven procedure. Geologists and chemists and physicists do this all the time. They get a rock and they're able to tell you how old the rock is. Now, not to any great precision. They can tell you, well, yeah, this rock dates for about 1 million years ago
Yeah.
from the carbon dating. So you can tell somebody about carbon dating, and people have been carbon dating rocks for what, 60, 70 years, something like that now. This is not a new thing. This has been around a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't believe you. In other words, this is the person to whom facts are irrelevant because they have no faith.
Yeah.
Okay, so up from that is cynicism, which is very little faith. This is a person who he's not going to dismiss it blindly, but he has very little faith. Like, this is a guy, he will not listen to a Republican. Like, you have a diehard Democrat. He doesn't want it. The guy's a Republican. I'm not going to listen to him. He's cynical about this.
Yeah.
Very little faith. You might say, well, this Republican he's not like all Republicans. He's just himself. Oh, no, I have no faith in these people. See? Cynical. Up from that is skeptical. Skeptical is little faith. The guy has a little tiny bit of faith. In other words, he doesn't believe it because he's skeptical. So there's only a little tiny bit of, well, okay, yeah, maybe DeSantis is a little different from Nikki Haley,
Yeah.
but he's skeptical. He kind of thinks, well, I tend to think that. Like, there are people who think, well, all politicians are the same. There's lots of people like that, Yeah, they're all politicians, they're all crooked. So they're skeptical, see?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, this guy reports that, like DeSantis reports that his state has this huge surplus. I forget how many $1 billion they have, even though they have no state income tax. And the guy he doesn't accept it. He's skeptical. Well, okay, well, I'd have to look into that. See, he's skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so up from that, you go to neutrality. So this is where everybody starts. So again, you come in at 4 and you either go up or you go down. So you could be at a lower level and work your way all the way up to the top again. So the guy becomes neutral. Well, okay, yeah, I can see, I'm not skeptical about it. It's just, I don't really have an opinion. He's impartial about it.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of trust and there's a little bit of control. You see, because as you believe less, you control less. You have to have some belief in order to control. Like, let's say you take a quarterback on a football team, right? He has a belief that he can throw this pass and hit the receiver. He's done it before. He knows how to do it, and he's going to do it again. So he has some control, and there's some belief that goes with that control.
Yeah.
So you see, a person who's very low on the scale is saying to you, I can't control this area. You can't control something if you have no faith in it. You have to have some faith in it. So to go back about the example about Mitt Romney, about how many million people refused to vote for him because he's a Mormon, I have Mormon friends. In fact, I've read the Book of Mormon just because I'm a reader.
Yeah.
Didn't make me a Mormon, but I read, okay, yeah, I read the book. So it's like, I'm kind of neutral about it. I'm not telling anybody do it, don't do it. Oh, you shouldn't be a Mormon, not doing that. So, I kind of know what they think and I know what they practice, and some of it's good and some of it I don't agree with, but whatever. But, I'm kind of neutral about it. So I can sort of control that area a little bit. See, I can have Mormon friends. I had a girlfriend who was a Mormon. We were together for 9 years. So, was not a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't try to make me a Mormon, and I didn't try to make her not be a Mormon. Okay, so ingenuousness is kind of a pleasant state. When you find someone who's ingenuous. Oh, really? That this is a person, he's not cynical, he's not skeptical. You can kind of convince him of things.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you do? Oh, I meditate. Oh, really? Does that help you? Oh, yeah, I've been doing it for many years. It helps me. I do it every day. No kidding. See, there's some ingenuousness there.
Yeah.
The person is having a little bit of faith in it. Oh, maybe this does work. You see? That's level 3. Now, above that goes into confidence. Person who has confidence. He has great faith. This is like that quarterback I told you about a couple of minutes ago. He has confidence. He's thrown the ball before. He's going to throw it again. He knows how to do it. He's been doing it for 20 years. You see, he's got confidence. He's got great faith. So he calls a play in which he's going to throw the ball. He must have confidence that he's going to hit the receiver, or he wouldn't call that play. So he has control. See, the control that he has over that football is coextensive with the great faith he has.
Yeah.
That's what confidence is, great faith. Or like a guy, he goes up to a girl at a dance and says, "Would you like to dance with me?" See, he's got to have some confidence. Because, first of all, the confidence will show, right? He's presenting himself in a pleasant, positive way.
Yeah.
See? So he has faith. He's danced with girls before. He's been to dances before. Maybe she'll say, no, that's okay. The next one will say yes. You see?
Yeah.
He's got confidence. The fact that she says no, he doesn't know why she says no. Maybe she doesn't like guys who wear glasses. Maybe she's got a stomach ache, Okay, so above that, we get to belief, the top of the scale, which is complete faith. So, like, this is, you have somebody who is, for example, a devout Christian. He has complete faith. It's more than mere confidence. That's what he believes. And so he trusts in it, and there's control that goes with this.
Yeah.
He has control over that area of his life.
Huh.
Any questions?
No. Really straightforward.
Yeah. And again, it's really, really very helpful to you to spot people on this because you know what you're dealing with. I used to know somebody who was at level 7 in almost everything. It didn't matter to give this person facts. Facts did not impress this person.
Yeah.
Most people, if you give them facts, they will impress it. I was just talking to somebody today. I said, I just read that California is $68 billion in debt. I said, really? See? She didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just came up with a conversation. And so she wasn't down in this. She didn't say no. She was kind of that, I would say, ingenuousness. Oh, yeah. Wow. See?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she kind of believed it. So that tells you what you're dealing with when you're talking with somebody.
Yeah.
So there are people I've known who I would call fanatics or extremists, political extremists, religious extremists. You can't argue with these people. They're at the extreme. So, okay, fine.
Where would that fall? Like any type of an extremist? Would that be
Well, they would
so
either
much
be, they
complete
would
faith?
either tend to be at either 1 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, there's a scale of politics in the book. And I say that the extremists are at 1 and 7.
Hmm.
This is very similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could have a person, what they talk about, fundamentalist Christians, usually in the media, it's done in a derogatory way, although I don't use it in a derogatory way. It's none of my business. But they have complete faith. And no matter what you say to them, they're going to say, well, it's God's will, you should come to Jesus, They have belief there. It's an extreme position. Or you could have somebody who is absolutely dead set against abortion under all circumstances. There are people who are even against abortion if it kills the mother, if the childbirth kills the mother. They say,
Yeah.
well, that's been going on for thousands of years, and it's God's will. So they just don't believe in abortion, period. They have no faith in it at all. That's an extreme position.
Yeah. Hmm.
Most people, needless to say, tend to be near the middle. Most of these scales, if you turn the scale on its side and do a demographic analysis, it looks like a bell curve.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So the way I deal with this is, I tend to stay away from extremists or fanatics of any kind, like terrorists. Terrorists are
Right.
extremists.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, you don't believe in Islam? We're going to kill you.
Yeah.
That's an extreme position.
Well, look at some of the I've met people, and I've known some people, like this whole phenomenon that's going on with preppers. Some of these preppers out there that are like so dead set on the apocalypse that they're
Uh-huh.
prepping for the worst case scenario,
Uh-huh.
and their belief in it is just so extreme
Right.
that whoa, it's like, okay, I need to stay away from this person.
Right. That's right. There's really nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
And so, extremists and fanatics tend to cause a lot of trouble,
Hmm.
one way or another. Like the types of people Christian scientists who would not allow their children to get medical help and the kid dies.
Yeah.
Right? There have been many examples of that.
Yep.
Or the person himself has some extreme position and he dies from something rather than seeking help.
I think Bob Marley.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he had, I forgot what he had some disease. I forgot what it was. And because of the Rastafarian
Uh-huh.
culture, he
Uh-huh.
denied medical treatment,
Uh-huh.
from what I remember.
I think that happened to Steve Jobs, too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think
He
so.
was trying to fix it by holistic means and everything.
Yeah.
I'm really into holistic, so it's not that I'm criticizing that, but at some point, you want to stay alive, you better go in for the chemo or whatever the doctor says.
Yeah.
So he died a young man. He probably could have lived much longer if he
Oh.
wanted to, but
Yeah.
that's what he chose.
Yeah. Yep.
Next.
So, chapter 21 is the scale of equanimity.
Okay, so let me explain what equanimity means. It means evenness of mind. The opposite of equanimity would be in turbulence. Somebody whose mind is very stirred up. Like a person who's hysterical, he's desperate. He is not in a state of equanimity.
Mm.
Now, for many years, I thought this was a scale of maturity, because if you look at the levels, they actually are articulated as levels of maturity. Infantileness, then you get a little older, you get brattiness. A little older, you get childishness. A little older, you get adolescence. A little older, you get adultness. A little older, you get maturity. And everybody says when you get old, you become wise. right?
Yeah.
But then I realized that there's an underpinning to that, and the underpinning is equanimity. And you see this all the time. You'll see a person who's very juvenile, he acts like a child. He doesn't get what he wants and he throws a tantrum.
Hmm.
You might even call that brattiness. So that person lacks equanimity. Now, this is a gigantic problem. It's more of a problem in America now than it was 50, 60 years ago.
Hmm.
If you go back and look at what people were like during the 50s, there was a lot more equanimity. People were much more even tempered.
Yeah.
Like, for example, uh, I would never put a political bumper sticker on my car now. You're just asking for trouble. It doesn't matter what sticker it is.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't matter. Or tell somebody that I'm part of a political party, or tell somebody who I'm voting for. I will not do it. Unless you chain me to a radiator and beat me with a club, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Because there are too many people who are at or near the bottom of the scale.
Hmm.
I mean, like you see this all the time now in America. It's widespread.
Oh yeah.
There are fewer and fewer people who have equanimity. So when we look at the wise man, somebody like Maharishi Mahesh Yogi
Hmm.
or uh, Paramahansa Yogananda,
Yeah.
they were persons of wisdom. They were very calm. They never lost their tempers. So that is the whole point of meditation or facilitation or therapy, that you move up this scale. So I've been meditating my entire adult life, one way or another. So this has made me a very calm person. So if people close to me die, I don't get upset. I'm calm
Hmm.
because I have equanimity. So this is a very positive thing to have. And most of what's in modern society undermines equanimity. The internet undermines it. YouTube undermines it.
Yeah.
TV undermines it. All of the pornography undermines it. There are all these crime undermines it. There are all these things in our society now that make people less equanimitous. They
Hmm.
push them down toward the bottom of the scale. And it's a very bad thing.
Oh yeah.
Now, let's look at the axis. First of all, I should comment it's a linear scale, meaning there's no apparent congruence between 1 and 7. It's gradual, meaning there's an infinitude of gradations between each level. You move gradually from level to level. And it's a general scale, meaning a person has a specific level and that's it. It's not context driven.
Yeah.
Now, you might be able to parse this in such a way that in saying, well, this guy has equanimity with his family, but he doesn't have it with his job. That could be true, but this is a persistent, widespread trait. So I came down on the side that this is a general scale.
Mhm.
Now, some scales are more general than others, and some scales are more specific than others. So it's not binary. There's a gradation there. But I think of this as a general scale because you can look at a person and see, oh, this person really lacks equanimity. And it really doesn't matter what you talk to them about, that lack of equanimity is there.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for somebody to be the captain of a company, a military company, you want somebody with equanimity. What do you think they're looking for when they promote these guys? What do you think they're trying to develop in military school? To make you stand at attention for 2 hours.
Hmm.
That takes some equanimity. it also develops some equanimity. So when you are the man in charge, you better have equanimity. You can't have somebody flying off the handle and, going nuts. You have to want to have somebody who demonstrates maturity.
Yeah.
So some situation presents itself, and he deals with it with aplomb, with equanimity. Okay? He doesn't go wild. So somebody who loses his temper lacks equanimity. You don't want that person in charge of anything. It's not safe.
Yeah.
You want somebody who's going to be able to be calm, say, okay, tell me what happened. What are the facts? How do you know that? See? And it'll absorb the data. And then it'll say, okay, here's what we're going to do. That's what you want from a person in charge. You want a person who is equanimitous. Now let's look at the axis. What are we measuring on this scale? Above level 1 is complete self-control, security, and emotional stability. Again, it's an unattainable absolute.
Mm-hmm.
So the higher you go on this scale, the more self-control you have, the more security you have, and the more emotional stability you have. Now, when I say security, I'm not talking about armed guards surrounding your house. I'm
Yeah.
talking about that you're not an insecure person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there are insecure persons. And you say to somebody, oh, I never saw that shirt on you before. What's the matter? Don't you like it?
Yeah.
See, that person is insecure. A person who's higher on the scale will say, okay, well, what do you think of it? See, he has equanimity. He's not insecure.
Uh-huh.
He's emotionally stable. And look at the bottom. Below level 7 is no self-control, no security, no emotional stability. That's what you get from an infant.
Mm.
You ever observe an infant?
Yeah.
He has no self-control. He is very insecure, and he has no emotional stability. You make a loud sound and he cries because he's an infant. Infants are in a state of disorientation. They don't know what the hell is going on. They don't know who they are, where they are, who you are. So as the infant progresses, he starts to become oriented. He sees, okay, this is my hand on this side, and I have another one over here. Oh, you see, that's orientation.
Yeah.
Or, okay, I'm in a crib. Here are the bars of the crib. And there's mom's face. You see, he's getting oriented. That's what's supposed to happen. So as humans develop, you have to realize everybody enters this scale at level 7 as an infant. And you expect people to move up the scale. So if somebody is bratty at 3 years old, you say, well, he's 3 years old. What do you expect?
Yeah.
See? But if someone is bratty at 8, no, he shouldn't be bratty at 8. So what do we mean by brattiness? Spoiledness. There are many women, very beautiful women, who men will just stand in line to give them whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
So they're used to that. They're used to being taken to expensive restaurants. They're used to being given jewelry. They're used to having doors open for them. You see? They're spoiled.
Yeah.
And so if you don't do that, they act bratty, even though this could be a 20-year-old woman. She acts like a brat. It's sort of an occupational hazard of being extraordinarily beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay? But you don't have to be a woman who's beautiful to manifest this.
Mm-hmm.
So there are lots of people, most of the young people in the United States today are bratty beyond the age where there should be bratty. Because It used to be children were to be seen and not heard. You did what you were told. And if you didn't, you got the back of somebody's hand.
Oh, yeah. I experienced it.
Okay? So you see, that person is not spoiled. He knows, okay, my dad is talking to this other man about adult stuff. I'm not going to interrupt them.
Hmm.
See, like a brat would say, come and play with me. You know,
Hmm.
that's what a brat would do. But the kids, let's say the kid's 6 or 7, he sees, okay, this is adult talk. He's just going to wait. And then when the man leaves, then he says to his father, play with me. See? That's not a bratty kid.
Hmm.
Okay. But there are plenty of adults like that.
Yeah, I've met them.
Okay, so above brattiness is childishness. So this is what we think of as immature. So you have a guy, why don't you go out with Joe anymore? Oh, he's immature. He's childish. See, this is the type of guy who he offered you his pin, you didn't accept it, and he said, well, I'm not going out with you anymore. See, that's childish.
Yeah.
It's immature. Now, a guy who's more mature would say, well, okay, maybe you'll accept my pin next week, next month, next year. You want to go out next Saturday? Yeah, I'll go out with you next Saturday. I'm not accepting your pin, but I'll go out with you next Saturday. We had fun. You see?
Hmm.
So he's not childish. He's a little more mature than that. So then you go up to adolescence. All right, so we're dealing with teenagers now.
Oh, yeah.
What do we see in teenagers? Rebelliousness, right? So there are people who never get out of the rebellious state. You see some gang member, right? The guy is 25 years old and he still acts like a teenager. You see? So we sort of expect teenagers to go through this rebellious state because people who understand teenagers know that that's sort of part of the deal.
Hmm.
Okay, so the kid's 14 and he knows he's not supposed to smoke, but he smokes just because he wants to rebel. Or he drinks because he wants to rebel. Right? That's very common.
Yeah.
Or my mom doesn't let me eat sugar. I'm going to eat some sugar to rebel. You see, you get that from teenagers. So that's kind of an adolescent phenomenon. But there are people 40, 50, 60 years old who are like this.
Yeah.
People who are just rebellious. It is not a good thing. It's not as bad as childishness, but still it's, you're supposed to grow out of that. And you're supposed to get to a point where you can stand in line, you can take orders, okay, next, and then you go. You don't say, I want to be served right now, I have these people in a restaurant who are obnoxious,
Yeah.
Because they behave like teenagers. Well, by the time you're old enough to go to a restaurant on your own, you should be able to not be like that. You should be able to act like an adult, a grown-up, and you wait and you say, excuse me, waiter, would you please bring me some more coffee? Okay, see, that's acting like an adult,
Hmm.
which is the next level up, grown-upness. There's a sense that you've grown up. And if you talk to somebody who's at this level, he'll say, well, yeah, I'm not a kid anymore. I used to get in fights, but I don't do that anymore. See, now they know, okay, grown up, you don't get in fights with people. If somebody does something unlawful to you, you can sue them.
Yeah.
That's what adults do. Okay, you write them a letter. Say, look, you didn't send me my product. I want my $300 back. And if I don't have it back in 7 days, I'm filing a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. See, that's an adult way to deal with it. You don't, like somebody at level 4 would say, you give me back my money or I'm going to come over there with a baseball bat. See, that's a rebellious way to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then above adultness, we get to maturity. This is a person who is now, he's not merely grown up, he's complete. And you can see somebody who is mature, he has a sense of completeness about him. as a person, he's complete. He's seen it all, he's done it all, he's been there, he knows what's going on, and this is kind of a pleasant state compared to the others.
Yeah.
Okay? He's complete. He's not merely a grown up, he's complete. A lot of people don't ever get there.
Yeah.
And of course, this person will not be insecure, will have good self-control, will be emotionally stable. So you say to a person who's at level 2, you're one of those stupid liberals. Well, because he's not insecure, he has self-control, he's emotionally stable, he's saying, well, okay, why do you say that? See, that's a mature response.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say, well, your mother wears combat boots. See, that's a rebellious response.
Yeah.
Okay, and then at the top is wisdom. So this is what you get from the saintly people, genuinely saintly people like Gandhi,
Yeah.
or Gautama, or Jesus,
Osho.
St. Paul. Okay, these people are calm and wise. Okay, so this is, if you move up the scale, this is where you get to when you're old, which is why for thousands of years you had the village elder, the tribal elder. You know, the man who made the decision was somebody who was old. He had been around a long time. Now, there might be another guy who's just as old. He's not the tribal elder because he's not as calm and not as wise. See? So that's why you have an old person. Could be a woman, could be a man.
Yeah.
But it's a person of wisdom, a person who looks at it and says, okay, I see all the sides of this. This is how we should proceed. And then the other people below go along with it because he's the boss. That's what you want.
Yeah.
You want somebody like that in charge.
Hmm.
The person's going to be a captain of a ship, okay? You know, you don't have captains of ships who are age 30. They're usually 50 years old or older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends on what type of a ship it is. Captain of an aircraft carrier, he's an older guy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he's got 6,000 men under his control. He can't make a mistake. He can't lose his cool when a storm comes up. Okay, he's got to be calm. So this is really important in deciding, do you want to have a relationship with this woman? Does this person have equanimity or not? Is this the type of person who, if she says, I want to go out for dinner tonight, and you say, you know, I really don't feel well. I need to just eat something and go to bed. And she says, no, I want to go out to dinner. Well, you've got somebody who's childish.
Yeah.
You see? You want to have a relationship with that person? No.
Oh, no.
That's why I say there's lots of beautiful women who are at or near the bottom of the scale, because men will put up with anything
Yeah.
to have a
Yeah.
relationship with them. Right? So you have some guy, he marries this supermodel, and he'll do whatever she says. I'm bored. Take me to Paris this weekend. Okay. Fire up the Learjet. You know, he just does it because he has this motive.
And a lot of money.
Right. Right. So this is like, you know, you have the wife who says, why are you buying me a cloth coat? Why don't you buy me a fur coat? Well, I can only afford a cloth coat. See, she's kind of bratty or childish.
Mm-hmm.
She knows what's going on. She should say, well, okay, this guy, our bills are barely paid, like most Americans today. He doesn't have money for a mink coat. That's like $50,000. So he's going to buy me a coat. Okay, it's going to be a cloth coat. See, that's what an adult would say.
Yeah.
Or a mature person. A person who's at level 1 wouldn't say anything at all. He would just say, thank you for the coat.
Mm.
So this is really important when you're deciding who you're going to hire,
Oh, yeah.
who you're going to put in charge of a department. See, who you're going to promote, who you're going to marry. Really important to assess this. Pay attention to this. And remember, people will tell you their levels. If you just shut up and listen
Yep.
and watch,
Yeah.
you will see this.
Mm.
You will see this. And if somebody is at some level, all you can do is you can give him the book, you can hope that he'll find his level, and then you can try to move him up one level, and then his behavior will be better. But remember, very few people ever get to level 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tiny minority. But everybody starts out at level 7.
Mm-hmm.
So the demographics of this are heavily weighted toward the bottom. The further up you go, because everybody starts at 7, the fewer people are at that level. So if you find somebody who's at, let's say, level 2, even if the person has other things wrong with them, that's somebody you want around.
Yeah.
Because that person is not going to be insecure, is going to have some self-control, is going to have some emotional stability. Those are all good things to have if you're going to deal with the person.
Mm-hmm.
In any context.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Seems like it. Yeah,
Okay.
this is perfect for HR. I mean, anybody who's got a business and needs to hire people, yeah, absolutely important. And developing questions for interviews based on these scales.
Yeah. Really, I think developing questions is not as good a way as just conversing with the person and observing the person.
Yeah. Getting
Observe the
reactions.
person.
Yeah.
So you see somebody flies off the handle and throws a chair across the room.
Yeah.
This person is not an equanimitous person.
Yeah.
Okay? Because he lacks self-control, doesn't he?
True.
So you want somebody who has self-control.
Yeah.
Well, you want somebody who, when things go badly, he can still be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to deal with this. Even if they're going to give you the firing squad. They come and say, we're giving you the firing squad tomorrow morning. All right, someone who's at level 1 will say, okay. He's calm. Whereas, there are, of course, innumerable examples of people who, when they get ready to execute them, they just go to pieces.
Mm.
They have to literally be dragged by several big men into the gas chamber or the gallows.
Yeah.
They're not even adult. They're more like teenagers. Well, whom do you think commits all the crimes? People at the top of the scale or people at the bottom of the scale?
At the
If you
bottom.
deal with some gangbanger, who's got tattoos and he's a professional criminal, he carries weapons, he's got a rap sheet, that person is not an equanimitous person. The equanimitous person is the guy who says, okay, it's true I don't have any money, but I'm going to study hard in college and I'm going to get my degree and then I'm going to take my time, get a good job. See? And then he takes his time, he's got a job. Now, okay, well, now I'm going to look for a wife. You see?
Yeah.
That's an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how most people used to be in the United States 50, 60 years ago.
Once upon a
It's
time.
normal.
Yeah.
I'm going to graduate high school, and then I'm going to get a job, and then when I have my job, then I'm going to look for a wife. That's how it was done.
Mm-hmm.
See, that requires some maturity or equanimity, which is what's underneath it.
Yeah. Yeah. Heck yeah. Awesome. Jim, I appreciate your time once again.
Thank you, Paul.
You're very welcome. And for those who haven't gotten the book yet, pick it up. Stay tuned next time, and we'll be back with picking up on chapter 22. Get your book today, Septemics, at www.septemics.com. www.septemics.com. It'll also be in the description of the video. Other than that, Jim, thank you again, my friend.
Thank you,
Have a
Paul.
wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's special report, Septemics. And until then, we'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Next week it is. Woohoo!